Welcome back, everybody. Earl at thelogbook.com. Voyages of Shelf Discovery is properly back, finally. Took long enough, huh? The point of this little series of videos is to just look at the cool stuff in the room. And I don't just mean down here in the little TV where I am. We're going to zoom in on one item per video and kind of give you some background on it, a little critical review, but most of the stuff that I have, it's not like I bought it sight unseen. The pictures made it look good enough for me to splash out on it. That is definitely the case with this item, which is a fan-made item. This is the ASTRID control room playset from Triple Fiction Productions. And that's a very small outfit. I think it may just be 2 people. I could be wrong there. Their main stock in trade up until now has been creating accessories that were never made back in the day for the 1990s Playmates Star Trek action figure line, which was that really was my main thing that I collected in the 90s, was the Playmates Star Trek line, which started with The Next Generation, and then they very quickly, once they knew they had a hit on their hands there, they backed up and did the original series, and then advanced on through Deep Space Nine, Voyager. It's a tragedy that they let the line go before getting to Enterprise, but more on that another time. Triple Fiction opted in this case to try to meet a different fan base. And I'm trying to figure out how to say this without making too many enemies. It's a very persnickety fan base. It's a very particular fan base. So I hope that people appreciated this as much as I do. As far as ASTRID goes, obviously, it's the TARDIS. It's the TARDIS from Doctor Who. And we finally have a TARDIS console room playset for the 5.5-inch scale character options Doctor Who figures. Now, that took a long time to happen, and it seems like it was only going to happen this way. It was only going to be a fan-made product. Character Options has done TARDIS console room playsets before, most notably the huge, gigantic 9th and 10th Doctor TARDIS console room, which was seen on screen as the TARDIS flown by Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant the first time around. And that was a wonderful set. Very cleverly, it used, there was a lot of plastic involved there, but for things like the walls, they used cardboard that you slotted into the plastic support structure. We're talking about the original Character Options TARDIS, which is a thing that they repeated when it came to doing Matt Smith's first TARDIS console room in 2010, which was another great playset. Loved that one. But the classic TARDIS, as seen from any point between 1963 and 1989, left out in the cold. It just wasn't going to get done. Never mind the fact that Character did reasonably well with their classic Doctor Who offerings, and they continue to. They continue to do so. But a TARDIS console room seems like it's just not something they are ever going to get around to. Not even in this day and age of Character doing web exclusives that you have to order directly from their website and get it shipped from the UK at great expense, let me tell you, speaking as a collector from the States. Whew. I mean, it's almost like buying the same thing twice once you tack the shipping on. But that's Character. That's, we're not talking about, that's not the case here, because this originates out of Florida. As you can see, there are telltale signs that it is 3D printed, but Triple Fiction's items tend to be very nicely finished where it counts. So you see the controls are, they're very nicely finished. You don't see those telltale striations of 3D printing on top of the console, just on the bottom, where it really doesn't matter. And here's the thing about this. I am perhaps being a lot more forgiving of things that other people might see as imperfections, because I know this is a fan-made thing. But it's wonderful. It's amazing. There are two very sturdy wall pieces that are joined together with a column that you slide them down into, and the whole thing is very sturdy. It stands on its own. It also includes one of the walls has the TARDIS doors built into it. Over here you can see there are the hinges, and it's fully assembled. You don't have to assemble, other than slotting the two wall pieces into that column. No assembly is required. The thing shipped fully built. There are two pegs that are basically the hinges for the doors. You see them opening there. Now, the wonderful thing that I absolutely was not expecting them to do, the outside of the doors, they're the police box doors. Granted, in the original series between 63 and 88, and you do have to work the doors to get them closed perfectly again, which, again, tracks very well with Doctor Who history, if you've ever seen the unaired version of An Unearthly Child. The doors in the original series had this kind of zigzag opening. These don't have that. I don't care. I just love that they went through the trouble of putting the police box doors on the flip side of those doors. That is a thing that they absolutely did not have to do, and it's lovely. It's just lovely. And there you can see the angle looking in. All very nice. The doors are finished out very nicely. Very nicely. As you can see there, over on the left-hand side of this, the wall that contains the doors, that's substantial. It's a very thick piece of 3D printing, and that's the case with the walls all around. Like I said, this is very sturdy. It wasn't particularly cheap, but I understood that having gotten Triple Fiction items in the past, most notably go back and watch my video about the most important device in the universe, I felt like there was a very good chance I was going to get my money's worth, and boy, they have a glossy cardstock insert for the roundels set into the walls that they just give it a very nice effect. It breaks things up. It breaks up the texture just a little bit, and makes the roundels feel a bit more like the pieces from the original set. Now, I hope they didn't take a lot of guff from Doctor Who fandom, which, as I said, and I love you, Doctor Who fandom, but you're very persnickety and you're very particular. The console is 5-sided. Now, I have a feeling this probably amounts to it took less material to print and made it lighter, because that console is a heavy 3D printed piece. There is a battery compartment connected to the light in the rotor. Now, the rotor does not move, but the light has this nice little flickering effect going on, and you can turn that on or off as you wish. The 5-sided console, it probably amounts to less material needed to 3D print it, and I'm perfectly okay with that. And here's the thing. If you look at it from the side like this, you can't tell me that you somehow know that it's not 6-sided. If it's just going to be a display piece like this on a shelf, it's great. It's great. I have absolutely no complaints. And the other thing about Well, if you look behind, well, oh, you can't. Okay, hang on, hang on. There's a button for this. There we go. The 1988 Daypole 25th anniversary TARDIS playset, which was the closest we have ever had to a classic series console room, was for the original figure line, which was a much smaller scale. Although I have found that console works pretty well with character option figures as well. But again, it was five-sided, and it probably had to do with the reference photos that they were looking at, or something. So there is a long tradition of five-sided TARDIS consoles included in playsets, and so no complaints. If this is an in-joke, this is the most delightful in-joke ever, and I fully approve. The console itself is not representative of any specific era of the TV control room console. And I'm totally okay with that. It it gets the spirit of it down very nicely. There's nothing about it that makes me think, oh, that's not the TARDIS. It can't be anything but a TARDIS console. Let's put it that way. And the controls are finished out very nicely on all five faces of the console. And almost kind of my headcanon here, if I really need one, is this is the console from the 90s. When, of course, Doctor Who was off the air and it was all novels and audio plays. Okay, well, that's what the TARDIS looked like in the 90s. So, if you absolutely have to have some justification for it, there you go. It really shouldn't be Leela and Tom Baker and K9. It should be Sylvester McCoy and Ace. And maybe a Helen Cutter figure from the Primeval line that Character Options did, standing in for Benny. There you go. There you go. That's all the justification you need. The 90s TARDIS console. But I need no excuses to love this thing. This was a very long time coming, and the sturdiness of it is just, it's amazing. There is as you can see there on the far right side, and I'm sorry I didn't get video coverage of this. The scanner screen is open, and there is a picture in there, and I think you can swap out the picture. Or you can slide your own picture in if you want to print something out that size and drop it in there. I believe that's possible. The sad thing about this is it's no longer being made. It was a limited edition, and I'm sure it was a limited edition because Triple Fiction wanted to kind of test the waters and see if there was enough Doctor Who fandom out there to justify them continuing to do Doctor Who pieces. Which, guys, hey, if you plan on doing Bessie, I'm buying that on day one, probably at full price. The lack of something like this for the classic figure line from Character it's a criminal omission from Character. If Character put something like this out, they could print their own money, even if it was a web exclusive and that too was a limited run. I can't imagine what that would cost, buying it and getting it shipped to the States. So I'm good here. Thank you very much, Triple Fiction. Very happy with this. If you guys need any encouragement to keep dipping your toes into the Doctor Who waters, in addition to all the great Star Trek stuff that they do, I strongly recommend it. And by the way, for those of you who have your own 3D printers and think, oh, I don't need these guys to print stuff out for me, I can do it myself. They do offer their STL files for sale, with the proceeds benefiting the Trevor Project. That, big round of applause there. I certainly appreciate that. I don't have a 3D printer. If I did, I would be all over their STL files. But for those of us who don't have our own 3D printers, this thing is just a marvel, and I definitely feel like this was a worthwhile purchase. We'll be back with more Voyages of Shelf Discovery soon.